Oh, hey.
Hello, world.
Howdy, gamers.
This is Heather Alexandra for Kotaku.com, a video game website about video games.
It's true.
I'm joined in the booth by
Chris Person, how's
Hey
everyone
there,
doing?
welcome to Highlight Reel.
Welcome to Highlight Reel.
For December 22nd.
Yes, 2019. I'm going to keep saying 2019. And hopefully...
Yes.
Yes. So, what is Final Fantasy, really?
Final Fantasy is a game that was supposed to be like the last RPG that Square Enix, or at the time Squaresoft, was going to make. And it turns out it was not their Final Fantasy at all.
Indeed.
It
This isn't
ended
even the final Final Fantasy VII.
This is at least the seventh Final Fantasy.
Let's do it.
That was the big thing. They named it that because they were like, I think it was Sakaguchi and some people were like, this is it. This is our last one.
This is all the bananas.
And they were wrong. This is the demo for the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which mostly just takes us through the opening of Final Fantasy VII, which if you've not played Final Fantasy VII, you should. The original is right there and really, really good. And the opening is just us blown up corporate stuff. It's great. I like the opening of Final Fantasy VII a lot. I like the Midgar section a lot. So I'm excited for this remake because the first game's only going to be the Midgar section. But we'll get started right away.
Let's do it.
What camera controls would I like? Inverted. Ugh. I'm going to do default.
What is it? What, like Steven Totillo is playing this?
I was going to say our boss Steven Totillo does inverted stuff, and boy, I've just never disagreed with my boss more on something.
Yeah. I agree. We luckily do agree on the spacing of video space games.
Somebody says, I'm guessing you've both already played this demo already. I have. I played it, so it came out 3 days ago at like 4 in the morning or something. 3 in the morning EST maybe, because that would be 12 PST.
Yes.
And I just played it. I've had a bout of like insomnia lately, and I was like, wow, I can just play Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I did not, but I've seen this footage many a time.
The music here is fantastic, and my only old person complaint is the fact that they toss in like little chants from One Wing Angel here.
Oh yeah, that does not.
It's a little weird because I like that opening prelude music a lot. But I get the sense for this remake they're really stressing Sephiroth a little bit more than the original game does.
He's the best boy. So
yeah.
thus...
Well, it's weird because the original game there's not much talk of Sephiroth until he shows up in Shinra Tower.
I do like the concept of making up new wrong, like, debatable pronunciations like Aerith,
well,
and then you just create a new third one that nobody ever got, like
I call
Aerith.
I call her Aerith now, but boy, in my heart, she is still Aerith.
Yeah, she's Aerith to me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, but this right here, when they hit the main music sting, it's so good. I'm, as a rule, skeptical of remakes and remasters to a certain extent, because I'm like, hey, the old games are there, and people should play the new games because they're good.
Yes.
But, wow, something about playing this demo really ignited a fire in my heart.
A fire in my belly.
Well, so my history with Final Fantasy VII, hold on for a second. So good.
So tight.
My body is doing that thing where my hair is sticking up because it's great. Wow. So, I don't know. All I was going to say is that my experience with Final Fantasy VII at first, like this opening sequence and things like that, was I had a friend who had a PlayStation. I did not have a PlayStation. And we used to do sleepovers because that's what children do.
Children do that.
And we started playing Final Fantasy VII, and I just remember a whole night getting through Midgar, getting to Shinra Tower, seeing Genova, like that weird headless Genova the first time. And we were like 11 or 12 or something, maybe a little older. And wow, it is stuck in my memory. So this opening sequence is great, and the music is great too. Bombing Mission, the title of the track, is an absolute banger. It's really good. And here we go, Avalanche. Barrett, Jesse, Biggs, Wedge.
All the gang is here.
They're a bit bumbling, but they were that in the original game too. They really push Cloud's like badassery in this demo, which is so funny because
He's kind of a klutz.
He's such a try-hard fellow in the game. I don't want to spoil too much because I know we finally have people in our audience who don't know that much about Final Fantasy VII.
Which is makes you feel old.
But it's like a lot of that game is Cloud dealing with a crisis of identity. And
at his core, some kind of
yes,
core
a crisis core. Crisis at its core.
Yes.
And the Cloud that you see at the start of the game is so different than like the Cloud underneath.
Well, that's the whole game generally, is that it feels like different games as time goes on. Which
Yeah,
I guess makes the project of creating these separate remakes an interesting project. Is how do you reconcile this thing has so many different tones?
Yeah, there's so much going on in these games. But hey, we're talking about the remake now, and there's all sorts of combat stuff going on. Mostly it's a little hack and slashy, but you'll see here that as time goes on and your gauge fills up, you can actually perform attacks.
Yeah.
So you kind of stay here for a minute. And then they're like, hey, why don't you try a thing? And the answer is, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Was never in doubt.
You know, I miss the distinctiveness of just normal JRPG battles, or specifically the actual ATB stuff that Final Fantasy does, which always just feels like a really good system, I think.
Yeah.
So moving to something more active like this is interesting. But that's generally been the trend with the series, especially even since like Final Fantasy XIII, which had a sort of interesting battle system where you were switching paradigms and things like that. I know a lot of people have problems with that game's combat because it's a little automated, but
Yeah.
you know, that's a step in the direction of trying to be really active. And then Final Fantasy 15 comes along and doesn't quite get it. And this feels a little bit closer. There's a lot of just really controlling over your position, very much more of an action game. I like Final Fantasy 15 a lot. I really do. But that combat system, there's definitely moments where it doesn't feel like you're doing stuff.
Yes.
It feels like the game is doing stuff, and then also like you can just get knocked out and beat up, and that feels really weird. Avalanche, though.
So what's Soldier Boy's deal? Is he one of us now?
Jesse?
He's got balls, this, what was his name again?
Cloud Strife.
Right.
And he
I
isn't a
appreciate
soldier
that Avalanche
anymore.
is mostly
Still, he's a professional, unlike the rest of us. I'm glad
like
to
a
have him.
concerned citizen group that's finally going for it.
This is a one-time
They're
gig.
doing activism.
When it's
It's
done,
so
we're
weird
done.
because if this tied into the compilation of Final Fantasy VII, which is that whole big multimedia project they did,
Yeah.
there's actually an earlier version of Avalanche that is one of the enemies in Before Crisis, which was the mobile phone game starring the Turks. Very early mobile phone game.
Yeah.
Some people are saying that there was a slight change in our audio.
That
right
was
there,
my
but
fault.
I
That was
think
my
it-
fault. That
I
was my
think
fault.
it was an overall improvement. People are saying, so that's good.
Yeah. Sorry about that. We got some filters mixed up there.
It's really weird to see this, just so detailed, and yet still feeling really familiar.
You better be worth the money, Merc.
Every last gill.
Cloud's like, shut up. I'm Cloud.
Yeah. Damn.
His
man.
little shoulder thing with like nuts and bolts, which I can't decide if that's a really good touch or not. Oh, and then there's the image
Iconic.
with his big old sword on his back, the Buster Sword.
That's the thing is like I've gone back and forth with Final Fantasy VII and like what it means. Is it smart? Is it good? And I've had multiple like I've had a weird. I think a lot of people have weird relationships with the game because you're like it hits you in such a way. But like even if you just like talk about the imagery, it is iconic. Like it's so clearly a thing. It so clearly knows what it's doing.
Well, oh wow, I missed.
At least in the beginning, at least in the Midgar section.
There's an old commercial for Final Fantasy VII that people probably don't remember, but the line that they said in that commercial was, "They said it couldn't be done in a major motion picture," and then I think the guy says they were right. And one of the big things with Final Fantasy VII was this really strong merger between between the sort of FMVs and cinematic style and then the game itself. And there wasn't as much that had really done that, right? That was something that was really being rounded out with, you know, the PlayStation. Cast some magic. And then Cloud has basically two modes, where one is kind of a normal attack mode, and then one is like a really focused, rapid attack mode. Every character is going to have like two different modes of attacking that you can swap between.
It's weird. It feels like a much more conservative. I don't know. It feels like they know they can't go like full Final Fantasy 15 with things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
because they want and they shouldn't. But it's this like weird in between to me, at least.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that we should remember with anything like this is that it is ultimately a very large corporate product.
Yes.
And it is, you know, Square Enix has had over the last years just projects that have taken a really long time. They don't have as many, you know, middle level creatives. It's like Nomura and a couple other people. They lost Tabata after Final Fantasy 15, so they want to come back with something really strong and really accessible, and that's fine. I think this is a really good chance for people to experience Final Fantasy VII again, to, you know, experience it if they haven't.
Yeah.
I have some quibbles as an old school fan where, you know, I have sort of an inherent distrust or wariness of remakes and things like that, because I don't. There's a lot of new content that's going to be in this that I'm a little unsure about, but I'm sure largely it's going to feel like its own thing, right? It doesn't need to feel like it's
like a 1-to-1,
right?
Like this isn't archiving the game. You know what I mean? It's not. Way to put it. This is like a retelling of it, but it's not itself like. This isn't the version that people will remember. Right.
This is something where, you know, I've talked with people who are archivists and preservationists, people like Frank Cifaldi at the video game you know, Preservation History Foundation and everything. And my opinion over time has kind of evolved in the sense that really what you want from remakes are something that capture like the feeling of an experience, and then you have the original game, and then the thing that you really want to preserve around the original game is the context and things like that too. So magazine clippings and everything like that really gives you a sense of the moment. So I remind myself that this is a game of this moment, right?
It's very time ghosty.
But
or
man,
zeitgeist as they call it in German.
There's definitely a part of me that this feels I feel such a powerful nostalgia, and I'll probably write about that today once we post the archive of this.
Yeah.
About how this feels kind of like the game we imagine in our head when we think back to Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
Just this really intense experience, when in reality that game was kind of like you said, moving all over the place.
Yeah, it was incoherent in certain ways, but like, and like the challenge of trying to like, and that's where we're getting to like the new side stuff. It's like trying to cobble together something that makes sense from beginning to end from that is an interesting challenge.
Yeah, a lot more different side content and quests are going to be in this game. Jason has played more of it. He has a larger bit of writing on our site. Jason, somebody who just has always really really kind of cared a lot about JRPGs and his personal relationship to them. So his opinion on this is interesting. I think his biggest concern is how long this might take to make.
Yeah.
You know, what will happen
to the company.
Right. This is something where this took a long time to make, and it's really cool, but also, you know, how long will it take until the next part?
I'm worried about like what do people like? What do you do? Like everybody's favorite part of Final Fantasy is Midgar, like pretty much. Like maybe I'm overstating things. Like maybe some of the Sephiroth stuff, but like that's the part people remember. And it's like, okay, the first one will be like probably successful. What about the rest of it?
I think I think the concern that Jason has and that I have, and partially what you're voicing there, is just how will the rest. You know, what form will the rest of the game make? Because the rest of the game really is very large and very tons of different locations. How will that flow?
Maybe no one else at command will talk to us.
how does it feel to go from, you know,
Good.
Coral to the Gold Saucer to Cosmo Canyon to Rocket Town? Like, how much will each game have? I think our former colleague, Tim Rogers, said on Twitter, and I kind of agree with him on this, that it feels like the first game will be Midgar, the second game would probably go up to the end of what is Disc 1, and then the third game will kind of have everything else together in a big
jumble.
kind of an amalgam,
Yeah.
right? And how does that, how will it handle side missions, fighting Ruby Weapon, going to, you know, if they have Yuffie's quest in Wutai that you can
Yeah.
do or anything?
How do they deal with the overworld generally and like that sense of exploration in those spaces?
Right,
or is it going to be
because-
like an on rails like Final Fantasy X like overworld thing?
Because look at how detailed this is. This is so lush and really detailed. And once you have the scale of, of a game this size, or like a game like Final Fantasy VII, where there actually is a lot in the game world, how do you how do you tackle the topic of scale, but also have a game that's this detailed? There's some, like, this is a very different moment too, because in the original game, there's no, Shinra is not spying on Avalanche as they do this. There's no Heidegger and President Shinra. It just goes to this elevator scene where Barrett's like, planet's dying, Cloud. I think they pour things on with Barrett a little thick here in terms of he's really preaching, and I appreciate his passion, but also part of me in the original kind of likes, like, he felt a little sadder in the original,
as opposed to like just like mad.
well, I don't know if I would say that, but I mean, like, there's definitely this, I think they're trying to make a contrast between him and Cloud here.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's a little much.
Get help.
But they really do have an adversarial relationship at first that gets ironed out kind of almost by the end of Midgar.
Yeah, they kind of sort shit out.
Yeah.
Save the screaming for later.
A lot of stuff is going to happen in this game.
A lot of stuff.
Even just the Midgar section, which is wild when you think that it's really not that large a segment of the original game.
It's like big part of the first disc, but not all of it by any stretch of the
I
imagination.
mean, you know, in total of the game itself, though, it's like maybe 10%, 15%.
Yeah. Maybe I misremembered. Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah, somebody in chat saying that this segment is so polished that they feel like they can't have this level of polish throughout the rest of the game.
Oh, I don't think so either.
I think, you know, especially for a demo, they're putting forward a really strong vertical slice. This is the stuff they were showing at E3. And I don't know if it feels like there's going to be like quality fall off. I think there's a lot of people working on this game.
Yeah.
A lot of very talented people.
Yeah.
But
Maybe they can maintain this quality.
it definitely is that matter of scale, and, you know, I think there are going to be
Yeah.
things that they probably say, well, we're not going to have that this time around.
I was playing Final Fantasy 13 with a friend recently. And
And here we have Barrett, who is a little clumsier to play as in some cases. Like, his lock-on is a little strange.
yeah.
And it doesn't quite feel like there's as much impact behind his shots, except for the charge shot and things like that. When he's kind of rapid firing, it feels a little off. But he does have kind of cool abilities. There's a defense ability that I just popped for kind of shits and giggles. And then some of the attacks that are limit breaks in the original game end up being kind of normal attacks in this game. So focused shot really just feels like another version of his first limit break, which is a big shot. And then Cloud, one of his skills in his thing here is Braver, which is actually his first limit break too. So some of that is being incorporated into moves that you just perform.
Like every...
Yeah,
a
so
lot.
like there's Braver, which we've shown a couple times in fights because it's really strong. But there are still limit breaks
Yeah.
in the game itself. Whoa, who's he attacking? Oh, over there. That was embarrassing. Imagine if you were Cloud and you hopped up into the air and
Just like a weird little, like,
Just got
robot.
bonked.
My man got bonked.
just looking at these because I've never looked at these menus before. They're
They were weird,
very,
kind of.
very clean, but they have They still have the blue background that is
Yeah.
in the original, right? I think that's a very deliberate decision.
The background grid thing feels almost like Sega Master System-y. You know, it's just like
Yeah, I
it's like,
suppose. I think interfaces have kind of become not completely homogenous, but they have a lot of the same qualities.
yeah.
I think a lot of this is lifted from some of the cleanliness of Final Fantasy 15, obviously.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of, I mean, not just tech, but like the DNA of 15.
Somebody in chat says, I'm not really able to look at chat a lot because I'm playing, but somebody in chat asks, battle camera looks wonky. Does it feel better than it looks? A little bit. I think when you're playing as Cloud, I'm going to maybe get zapped. When you're playing as Cloud, it's mostly okay. I think Barrett, the way that the camera pulls back, sometimes you'll get things that get in the way, like, because it pulls back a little bit behind his back to give you a better, ostensibly a better view.
Yeah.
Ow, hey.
You got zapped.
And sometimes that means that railings or other things get in the way. I think we had that happen in the previous fight a little bit.
Yeah, people are also saying that they like how thick they're layering it on early, and they think it's actually hitting a pretty good balance based on how the original game. Yeah, the original game was goofy.
There's definitely a camp value
Yeah.
and level to anything in these games. I think one of the first things they want you to do is use magic against these things. Yeah, a lot of this is just tutorial right stuff because it's just the start of the game.
I will say I still am pissed at Final Fantasy 15, even though I've been told they've made it better.
There's so much stuff that's been added.
I know.
One thing that you kind of have to get used to in this game, though, is switching between characters, which I think some people will not, I guess, grasp right away.
Yeah.
Because each character, I mean, it'll hopefully be based a little bit on what materia you give each character, but right now it's like I can use fire on this and probably stagger it, but I kind of would rather use bolt, right? Because that's what Barrett has if I can use it, right? Thunder.
How would they deal
I
with
called
like,
it I called it
summons?
bolt because that's what the original is
yeah.
calls it. I call it bolt in Bolt 3.
Like, yeah, summons. I don't know.
I mean, they've shown some of that, right? Like Shiva and Ifrit. There's some stuff with special editions that you can get like a Cactar summon. I'm not quite a fan of that.
That feels weirdly gated.
Yeah, but I feel like there's some stuff that is so ingrained in video games now that, like, even as I hate it, I don't see companies changing. DLC passes and, pre-order bonuses and things like that, which I've never really been a fan of.
Someone is saying I was bashing Final Fantasy 15. I just have a real problem with the game it became. I love the game it is in the beginning, and then it just
narrows.
It
narrows down.
It narrows
becomes
in a way
little
that
bit,
feels like really, really.
becomes
sad
a
to
little
me.
bit more of running through corridors. The nice thing is that they really did expand it. They added.
That's good to hear.
They changed. I think it was like chapter 13 or something like that. One of the chapters that was a little rough gave it more context.
Yeah.
They
that chapter is a mess
and then
in the original version.
And the DLC in that game, I'm just complaining right now about DLC, but I will say I think the DLC in that game is really good, and I wish that it had just been a part of the game.
Yeah.
Some of that DLC is really good.
Oh, good.
Especially the Ignis DLC, because it has an entire alternate ending to the game.
Yeah, I've seen the Ignis stuff.
It's interesting because I think there were going to be a lot more alternate endings because there's a novelization of that game which follows an entirely different thing for Arden and Lunafreya, which I think was going to probably be part of the DLC that they had planned for Luna.
Yeah.
Which was just going to be another kind of alternate ending and have all these different paths through the story.
One of these days, I want Square to just like make one game that's like 25 hours again. just make a Chrono Trigger again, and don't have it to be like this big like weird property that's like several different like books and novelizations
How'd
and
they
movies.
get behind me?
Just make a Chrono Trigger again.
Well, it's weird because I mostly like what they did with Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, sure.
Right? I think that game.
What else could you do with that game?
I think it's weird. Obviously, I think some of those Disney levels aren't as good as the earlier games.
Sure.
But also that's probably some nostalgia speaking, because I don't know a lot about Big Hero 6 or whatever, but I still liked a lot of it.
I just still think they need to like put more Final Fantasy back in that game. I'm sorry, that was like half the appeal of the other one.
They started adding that in the DLC.
Yeah.
Not as much. I should heal.
They could have just had the entire Final Fantasy 15 crew in there just hanging out. I'd have loved to see like Ignis hang out with like, I don't know.
That's one of the appeals of a game like the mobile game Dissidia that they have, which is just like the whole big cast of characters in a weird original story.
We got some Nomura bashing in the chat, and first off, The World Ends With You is fantastic.
So I'll be broad and I'll say, I think Nomura's really big strength is kind of building out worlds. I think from everything that we heard of from the development of, what was going to be Versus 13 and how that kind of fell apart leading into Final Fantasy 15, there's some, I would question a little bit of how he functions as a director.
Yeah.
The big story that people remember is that there was a moment where he supposedly wanted Final Fantasy 15 to be a musical or have like a musical part. There were a lot of ideas that were switching around during that development, and then Tabata came in and just kind of Frankensteined everything together.
I kind of want just the uncut shit at this point, I kind of want like the real weird Nomura. Like that's the thing about The World Ends With You, is that like so clearly just his soul. You know what I mean? Like it's wholly him. It's not tied to a franchise. It's just like, let's go.
Well, I think a lot of people, part of the story there is that this game was announced, and some people were saying, and I don't think it's actually true, that Nomura didn't even know that he was going to be a director on this game. Don't know the truth of that, but I think people are afraid, that this is somebody who's getting stretched out a lot. But I should stress to people that he's not the only director on this game. One of the people who's directing on it is Motomu Toriyama, who did, Lightning Returns and things like that. The producer on this game is Yoshinori Kitase, who was like the original director on FF6 and 7 and stuff. So there's a lot of people working on this game. Square's really putting all hands on deck for this. But here we have the Guard Scorpion, whose mechanics are a little different. I think the thing that people remember from the original is the mistranslation that's like, attack when its tail is up, and you're like, that's the opposite of what you want to do.
I just looked up what Matsuno was doing because I miss him.
What is Matsuno doing?
Some mobile game stuff.
Taking a big break?
Just I don't know, reading about like the Balkan Wars from
Well, the big Matsuno thing too is when he was directing FF12, he stopped like maybe halfway through that process because he just got burned out, right?
For the record,
making these games is such a process.
It's one of those things. I feel the same way about Matsuno, where I'm just like, I don't necessarily want you to have to like do anything with Square anymore because he clearly got burnt out by it. But just like I want the good stuff. I want you to make something purely you, like.
You see that kind. I know a lot of people have problems with mobile games, but Masato Kato did, what was it, the Cat Beyond Time or whatever it's called. I forget the name of that game. But he was also one of the writers on Chrono Trigger. He was a writer on this game. I have a sneaking suspicion that for the original Final Fantasy VII, he was mostly the one who wrote a lot of the Cloud stuff in the live stream.
Yeah.
A lot of those flashbacks, because that seems to feel very Masato Kato to me.
Yeah. Well,
it's hard to dodge that.
Yeah, and you don't want to like get too like, obviously you don't want to get too auteur theory-ish.
Well, I mean,
but like because it does flatten the contributions of a lot of people.
I think a lot of people need to remember that these games, especially, were made by a lot of people, even at the time. Tons of folk banding together to create something interesting. Final Fantasy VII originally had, kind of like I was alluding to, a lot more writers, a lot more people kind of working together, being bound. Did you get grabbed? Whoa. I haven't seen that happen. I've played through this demo a couple times and I haven't seen that happen at all. Oh, they still got the guard thing up. Can we...
Classic boss fight move.
get the field generator.
The Scorpion Sentinel bounty.
Oh wow, that thing was hitting a lot more than I thought. This is a really intense kind of early boss experience. I feel, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I'm cool with that, but I also feel like it's way longer than the original.
Yeah.
Somebody's asking, is this PS4 Pro? And I believe it is, right?
Yeah,
That's what we have in here right now.
Only the finest. And
I do like the PS4 Pro a lot.
I love the PS4 Pro. I think it's I love the matte plastic.
I don't think it has as much going on as
The Xbox One X is better.
the Xbox One X has a ton of really good stuff.
The
going
Xbox
on,
One
but
X.
This is still. I like it a lot.
I will say this as somebody
Whoa.
who has to
it's so hard to
deal
dodge.
with recorded clips. The Xbox One X, if you want to share a clip and use it in any kind
You
of
can just
edit,
upload it to a lot of stuff. It's
just
really nice.
raw file right into OneDrive, and like that to me is butter. And the actual capture quality is so good.
It's like butter.
It's like butter. No, I'm a huge proponent of the Xbox One X, if only for how good it deals with capture.
These are the situations where you kind of want to switch to what the game calls Punisher mode for Cloud, which is if you have an enemy pressured or staggered, you really want to do a lot of damage fast. So there is some cool stuff to the game here where you're kind of juggling stances, you're doing a lot more magic stuff, you're switching characters. It feels pretty active. There's a little bit of clumsiness to it. In the sense that, the camera can be weird.
Yeah.
And things can feel a little off, but I mostly enjoy it. My bigger reservations are still like, what are they going to add to the story? What's going on? There's a moment here in the demo that I actually don't care for.
Speak to it.
Which we'll see. It sounds like I'm complaining more than I probably want to sound like I'm complaining. There's just like small tweaks that I'm like, certain things in the story that I don't want to deviate from too much. Right?
Yeah. Well, because then it becomes like those choices are personal, is what I'm saying.
This is an interesting way to kind of incorporate the tail laser into the fight in a way that's different from. I'm just going to use this as a moment to heal as well. That's different from the original, right? The original was if the tail is up, don't attack it, or it will use tail laser. Here it's like
you have to use
just a thing you get away from. And dodge is kind of a way of adapting kind of a thing that people remember from the original, but moving it into the mechanics of this game. Wow, buddy.
It's also an easier thing to communicate than I'm sure if they play tested it with the tail laser.
I wish the range of that attack was a little shorter, because there's some moments where you do kind of feel locked into an attack animation in this game. There's not as long as as far as I can tell. Canceling an animation once a lot of it starts, so you can feel a little trapped. Like the game wants to be like, hey, dodge and do all this stuff, and you mostly can, but every now and then you feel a little stuck, especially as Cloud, whose animations are really cool, but like, what was that? Just catches you off guard a little bit. Good news is the demo gives you pretty much everything you need. The start of the game gives you most of what you need. Barrett even has a cure spell, which that's nice.
Does he have a cure spell in the original?
I don't recall.
So,
yeah. I think Cloud has Bolt, and then he has some other things. It's been a while. I don't remember the materia distribution of the original. Yeah, see, I can't cancel those attacks when I go in there.
Sorry, you don't have an adequate memory of the material distribution of the original. Damn.
Yeah, limit breaks. This is fun. I like.
Hell yeah.
Like.
I love the little rainbow animation on that. Was nice.
Yeah, we got some cross/slash action here. Boom.
Tight.
It jumped there a bit, so I don't know if I got the full damage. I kind of wish. So these are my quibbles with the battle system, where I kind of wish I had a little bit more chances to cancel animations.
Yeah.
And then I also wish that maybe for limit breaks, enemies froze in place.
Yeah.
So that I could really like land some big fucking hits on them.
Thank you for censoring. I do think that you're getting. Yeah.
But I still, it's still exciting to me, a lot of what's going on.
I think this is going to have a lot, like a much broader appeal to like a bigger group of people.
Well, that's the point.
I mean, like, yes, but like, I think that influences how they're going to do design, how their design choices are happening.
I think maybe what the game wants me to do there is block a little bit more, which is such not quite counterintuitive, but it's so weird to play Final Fantasy VII and be like, oh, I have to hit my block button.
Yeah, guarding in a Final Fantasy game or in a lot of RPGs is like.
And mostly,
a
I just want
wasted turn.
to be aggressive here.
Unless it's like the whole deal.
Cloud had Bolt and Ice, someone says. Oh yeah, that's right. I definitely remember him having Bolt. Like somebody has to.
Yes.
But you can see, like, I'm building up that pressure meter, and once I hit that, it'll stagger completely, which is why you kind of want to maybe switch modes, be really aggressive. I don't really care about taking a lot of damage here. Some folks are going to be like, oh, you're getting batted around a lot, and the real answer is, like, it doesn't matter. It's like, I'll be fine. This isn't a particularly hard or overly complicated fight.
Yeah, they're just trying to ease you into.
It's just beefy.
bosses,
It's just a beefy boss. Takes a little bit of time.
It's big boy season.
It has like way more phases, which is interesting.
I like its little GLaDOS core eye.
I feel bad for it kind of going bananas bonkers here, though.
It just wants to love.
And then this almost feels like a DPS check from a MMORPG. Getting staggered a lot there from the missiles. I like Barrett's big attacks. Those feel really cool. The other machine gun doesn't feel as effective because I'm hitting for like 1, 2, blah 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 blah.
Of course,
I'm
yeah.
trying to build up some limit break stuff here though. Come on, buddy. Where's Cloud? Cloud? Where is Cloud? Oh, he's up. Oh, he's behind it. I was like, where's my bud?
Buddy, where are you, friend?
I thought he was in there, so I felt pretty good.
Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy.
We should have our limit break in a minute.
I'm excited. I love limit breaks.
I do like limit breaks. They're a wonderful mechanic. Did he hit it without me knowing? Oh, because I
there we
switched
go.
off of him. Yeah, here we go. I want all the limit breaks that I can
On his
that I
right
can
leg.
have.
Nice.
Oh wow, that hit it. So that gives us plenty of time to beat it up. Ah, your tail. Can't see. Yeah, there you go. We got it.
You focus.
It's just a very busy boss fight.
Yeah.
Not too difficult. It's just a lot of stuff going on, but it puts a really exciting foot forward, right?
Yeah. It's a good way to. It's a good first impression.
I think some people are saying that I probably should have used ATB a little bit more. You're probably right.
Yeah.
There's a camera blocking where the ATB bar is, so I can't quite see whenever I have ATB right now in our
Oh.
booth.
Well, I'll fix that in the future. I'm
So
sorry.
in my heart of hearts, I'm just kind of doing it based on a gut check.
Yeah.
So that might explain some of it.
That's my fault. I installed a multi-camera setup that eventually we will use to.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot more stuff in the booth. We have a lot more lights and things getting set up, which should be really cool.
Yeah, we got the Elgato lights, those little Wi-Fi ones. It's gonna be great, but you know, we got to do some playing around that.
Showed you how it's done.
Bunker V3.
Somebody says they think the boss fight length is fine since you can finish the demo in about an hour. Yeah, it's a pretty short demo, all things considered, but still has a lot going on, which is cool. Then you have the escape scene.
Get out of here. You get out of here.
Oh no, the person in chat's now saying they didn't want to sound rude. No, you
Yeah.
didn't sound rude at all. I just wanted to explain that I can't quite see all of the menu, but I think we did okay.
Yeah, I put a weird little like clamp in front of the camera.
The rest of the escape scene is pretty easy. See, yeah, I wish that abilities couldn't whiff as much like that. Doing Braver and then having a little robot slide under it is cool for the robot. Feels bad for me.
Not good. Oh, I like those little like slashes
The
and crosses.
slashes
Those are
from
so
the
tight.
from the guard scorpion and everything.
Yeah, that's cool.
Midgar's a lot of robots that do a lot of damage. Because I think the next real big boss fight after this will be Airbuster, which will be cool because you'll finally have Tifa in your party for that one as well.
Hell yeah. Big fan of Tifa.
Tifa's the best.
Tifa rocks.
I love Tifa Lockhart. She's so good.
Tifa's the strongest one.
I think some people were surprised that they said that they said Red 13 is not going to be playable in this, which I think is broadly the case in the original, except maybe he helps you fight in the elevator down from Shinra Tower.
Yeah, you mean in 1. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think you only have him in your party for a limited time, so I think they're saying he'll be a guest character in those moments as opposed to somebody you control completely.
A General Leo, if you will. Or maybe not. You do control completely.
General Leo Christoph, the one good person in the Empire in FF6. I like Leo. Poor guy.
Rip.
Yeah, he's a real one.
He died. He got owned so bad that people tried to pretend
that you could resurrect him. They're like, you can bring General Leo back, and you're like, I don't know, man.
You can just
Kefka.
You have to solder your board, and then
writing back to his family. Kefka pwned your husband. Sorry about that.
He misspelled something in a DM, and everyone just like roasted him, and then he died.
Yeah, Kefka really had a good jab.
Went right through square.
Just looking at those weird eyeball dudes again. I kind of like Jessie in this. She's nice. They focus on one of her main characteristics from the original, which is kind of her crush on Cloud. It's a little thick here, kind of like how Barrett's stuff is a little thick, but she's nice, and I want her to be happy and safe.
Honestly,
which sucks because
her.
Avalanche is gonna get.
It's gonna do well.
Gonna have some bad luck later. Yeah, there you can see the camera is a little weird, like anything when you're up against the wall or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite what you want. And also like, oh, I thought that guy got knocked out of bounds for a minute, which wouldn't surprise me.
Someone's saying the shock troopers can be a little cumbersome.
They dodge a lot, so I think what the game wants to really do is have enemies that have different quirks that you have to figure out. And I think one of the quirks they really stress in these initial segments is like people you have to hit with magic.
Yeah.
So I think here it's like they really want you to do magic
Bolt it,
on
baby.
on the sweeper. They really want you to do magic against the shock troopers as well. We'll see those in a minute because like they really really want you to do magic here to pressure it. And then follow up with some skills, which is fine. That feels pretty good.
Yeah, it feels more like an actual planned RPG. Because I was worried it was just going to be like Kingdom Heartsy and I guess Kingdom Heartsy is RPG-ish, but there's more actual planning.
I think I definitely agree that the shock troopers are pain in the ass, though.
They suck.
You'll see them in a minute. They're pretty bonkers.
Yeah, like how do you the difficulty of maintaining how that game. The flow of that game in a different context.
The nice thing is, though, I think I'm probably moving a little slower here streaming than I did the first time I played here. It's like 20 minutes is still a lot of time to get out of the Mako reactor. 20 minutes is a long time in general in a video game. If you've watched a speedrun, you definitely know this, because a minute can mean tons of shit.
That's like a whole episode of a TV series show.
It's a lot. So when they're like 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and then you choose 20 and Barrett's like, you're really cocky. I'm like, I don't know, man. 20 minutes feels like a decent amount of time to get away from our big reactor bomb explosion. Somebody says, I missed a chest. They're talking about the one way down the path from the stairs I just ran up.
Well,
there's another enemy there.
You won't be able to use those items later in the game, like when you fight Sephiroth.
I think it was probably just more potions, right? But we're grabbing elixirs and potions and stuff from enemies.
I simply love elixirs, potions, and potuses.
I love having bottles of stuff. So here are the shock troopers, right?
Yes.
I'm going to attack and they're going to dodge a lot. So it's kind of tricky to chip down their armor. But I really think what they want you to do is magic. Just lots of magic and special attacks. Because then you see that really starts to wear them down. And maybe it'll stagger them there. But the thing they really want you to do there with those is not attack normally, is to really use your abilities. It gets a little trickier now that there's two of them, just because it takes a while for your HP to fill up, depending on what you're doing, so you kind of have to do some stuff.
Someone's saying counter and Punisher mode for the shock troopers.
Oh, that's actually a decent point, huh?
Yeah.
Punisher mode is weird. I don't have all of its like eccentricities down.
Yeah.
I wish it was a little easier to
Punish.
to lock on the targets that I want. Lock on isn't terrible here, but like I don't know why it defaulted to that and not the one that I was looking at. I think I just need to be a little bit more careful.
Man, I gotta get a sleeveless turtleneck finally. I think it's time.
Oh, you want to have some cloud strife?
Hell yeah. There's like
looks.
there are some certain looks that I will just refer to as like deeply bisexual that happened in like the 90s and early 2000s. One of them is a sleeveless turtleneck, and the other is Trunks's cropped jacket.
The jacket.
Yeah, those are just
The wonderful capsule core
oh
jacket.
hell yeah. I got a
See, like weird. It targeted that, which I was not really a fan of. So I guess I need to pay attention. And then this is just focus with Barrett.
Yeah, he's got big pants. He's got those like big Japanese gardening pants with like the drop crotch kind of situation tucked into boots. It's such a good look.
It's very
so
fashion.
strong, dude.
Whoever designed the soldier uniforms
Also strong.
did great.
Yeah.
There, if you use the abilities though, those get taken down pretty quick. I don't think there's many more fights on the way out, so I think we're good.
Yeah, here we.
I think it's mostly we got to the elevator and we're fine.
We're fine.
Yeah, those shock troopers are a pain, but definitely I think what the game wants you to do there is to use all your abilities.
I like the idea that the elevator took 14 minutes.
So-
they had to think of things to say.
So this ends up being one of the changes that I'm actually not a fan of, which sounds like such a nitpick, but I don't like that Shinra comes in here and partially
Yeah.
destroys the reactor. I think it's really important in the first game, especially for Barrett's character development, to have Avalanche be a pretty unabashed, like, eco-terrorist organization, and for them to come into the reactor and, like, really take their stand and do it. I know this makes Shinra a little bit more villainous and probably still brings some interesting character moments, but I really like the conviction of Avalanche in the original. Right?
Yeah, it's very like loose change Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, well,
it's
it's
just
also,
like
there's a moment later on in the original version of the game where Ketchi, the giant Moogle, who, spoiler alert, is controlled by a Shinra employee, kind of calls Barrett out a little bit and says like, hey, like, remember you were doing terrorism and stuff. And I don't think Barrett ever loses the conviction that what he's doing is right, but it makes for more interesting conversations.
Yeah.
Because now, like, I don't know if Barrett ever found out, he'd be like, oh, well, Shinra did this shit.
What is the efficacy against a fascist state, you know? And yeah, it does kind of keep them in control and minimize their role a little bit.
Some people say they think it makes it more gray. In this case, I don't think gray is good, is my general position there, but I know people have different takes on it.
Yeah, sure.
I think Avalanche should really be the thing that it's supposed to be.
I do wonder if they were planning on doing that originally, or I don't
Probably
think
not.
so.
Good backflips there. I mean, they're adding a lot
That
of
was
stuff.
pretty
There's like
cool.
a whole.
That was pretty cool.
There's like a whole different. I think a soldier third class rival dude who's gonna chase you during the motorcycle segment and stuff. It looks like.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting stuff. Boy, look at that Mako reactor explode though.
Damn, dude. Old ass car.
What an interesting. Final Fantasy's always, especially 7, has always had this weird mix where there's just enough cyberpunky, mostly steampunk stuff, really, and then like a normal old hatchback or whatever.
And then you're just in like Milan
Yeah, it's very interesting.
in like the 50s.
It's always made it feel really distinct and have a fair amount of character, though. And also, a lot of that was due to the backgrounds in the original version of the game. Just really cool pre-made backgrounds. But yeah, that's it. That's the demo. They're showing us a little bit of a preview of what comes next. I think people asking, hey, how did they make this game so long? Here's one of your answers. I feel like the escape sequence is going to be much longer.
Padding.
Cloud in the streets. In the original, there's like moments where you can choose to fight Shinra soldiers, but mostly it's Cloud gets confronted and then jumps off a bridge onto a train, where Avalanche is like, man, is he dead? I don't know. And
Yeah.
he shows up. So I think there's going to be a little bit more fighting, a little bit more stuff like that.
Well, that is that.
Yeah, I
Final Fantasy VII.
hope you enjoyed. I think it's going to be like, oh, Sephiroth. Look at those Mako green eyes. I know in the game here they called it Mako. I'm never going to call it Mako
That's
energy.
wrong.
It's going to be Mako energy until I die.
Frickin' Mako.
Then you go Sephiroth.
Gonna go down to Worcester.
I bet you there's going to be a Sephiroth or Genova fight in this version of the game way before there's actually supposed to be one in the original. Because the first Genova fight is on the boat to Costa del Sol after the whole Junon parade stuff, which I hope is in whatever game follows this, where you have to dress up like a weird parade guy.
This menu's very
and stuff.
funny, by the way. This very just like, I guess you could get the simple version. Anyway.
Yeah, and then this one has digital art book. Yeah, look at that. Cactar summoning and Carbuncle summoning, all sorts of stuff. But that was it.
We will have this archive up.
Yeah,
and
I'll have an article up today too. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully our chat and talk was really good. That's it. This was Heather and
Chris.
And I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Keep it Omnislashing.
Bye.